Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and I just wanted to drop in for a quick second to tell you that this podcast is really gaining popularity, and in order for us to continue growing like this, I'd love it if you could rate and review us on iTunes. Plus, I'm always excited to hear feedback and continue to improve our content based on what you want to hear. I know I'm in. Are you? What exactly do we like about the Houston Rockets? What issues do we have with the Toronto Raptors? Are all players coachable? The only question left is, say it with me, you in? Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown Podcast. And as usual, every Monday now, I'm going to have on Coach Dave DuFour, your friend and mine. Dave, that guy Dave. And don't forget to check out That Guy Dave Basketball Podcast as well, because if you don't get enough of him here, you can get plenty there. So Dave, good morning.
Morning. How's it going?
It's going. It's Monday.
We just did that thing. Where we pretend that we didn't just talk for 30 minutes.
Right. Or we're also doing that awkward, like, hi.
Yeah. Hey. Hello.
Right.
Like NPR.
Yes.
Anyway. All right. So let's
Hi.
talk some basketball.
Okay. Shall we? We're not going to talk about. Anyway. Yes. Let's do it. We were talking about the Rockets. We're talking about the Raptors. Watched that game last night, and I thought we could jump right into what we think about the Rockets because, let's brighten up some days, shall we? Some people's, make them happy. Give the people what they want.
Yeah. The Rockets are a good basketball team. Very good.
We need a sound effect for like a siren or something when you say things like that.
Like I know. I need to get some drops going here, but they are really, really good. I mean, I'm not surprised, but I think a lot of people are. They have a team that on paper should be bottom 5 in defense, and once again, Mike D'Antoni is coaching inferior talent to league average levels of defense. They're 16th right now in defensive rating overall. They're in a virtual tie with Toronto for 2 in offensive rating. A couple of I think a point and a half behind the Warriors or something like that. And over the last month, they're 19-2, and they're 2nd and 4th. So 2nd in offense and 4th in defense. So,
is that right? Their defense has really picked up, huh?
Yeah, and
Wow.
they've been missing Capella now for a couple weeks, and they haven't missed a beat. D'Antoni's found a way to leverage Nene and his passing ability up around the elbows. And Montrezl Harrell has been really, really good. He started last night's game 12 of 12.
Love him.
You and I both love that guy. He's an undersized center with a high motor. And he's got a really nice touch, and he makes a lot of winning basketball plays. It's like Larry Nance.
Yeah. You know what I respond to for him is that, like in Louisville even, and I don't watch a lot of college, but he stood out to me there because he's kind of mean. And some of those guys, like Larry Nance, is not mean, and that holds him back. Now, I don't advocate for people being mean or being a jerk or being whatever on the court, but there are guys who are good mean, and you shouldn't mess with them. And they're not gonna be intimidated, and even if they're undersized, they can still do that. Like Ronnie Turiaf was a good example of a guy who never got mean enough and didn't really believe how good he could have been. And I feel like in almost in the same kind of package, this is what Montrezl Harrell is, and he just gets it done. And that motor is absolutely what stands out. Again, Daryl Morey deserves more credit than most people give him, even though he probably gets a lot of credit anyway.
Yeah, I questioned the Ryan Anderson and the Eric Gordon signings. For me, it wasn't the dollars; it was the years. And so we will see if the years wind up being bad on the back end. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you what, man, this first year where they're looking at a potential 2 seed, it's paying off so far. I mean, he's done a great job. When he hired D'Antoni, I thought it was a weird hire for him, but he armed D'Antoni with the right pieces. This is obviously the opposite of Hoiberg in Chicago that we've talked about, where he'd been armed with all these odds and ends, weird pieces like C-3PO with a red arm. Like, what am I supposed to do with this thing?
Did they ever explain that, by the way?
So, yeah, quick tangent. They didn't, but they explained it in the Lego video game. So don't ask me how I know that.
Oh, I won't. Okay, fair enough. So we'll break that out because that never made much sense. But okay.
Yeah. So it was, Morey did a great job of giving D'Antoni the he's like handed him the keys to a nice car for his offense. And then, they've just done a really great job on defense. I know Roy Rogers is coaching the defense there. But also, man, D'Antoni, look, it is time that people start to realize that Mike D'Antoni is a very good basketball coach. Actually, you know what? No, he is a great basketball coach, and on both ends.
Yeah.
Because if you go back and you look at the personnel that he had, he's never had a center who you would consider a top 5 defensive center or a top 10 defensive center. And he definitely has never had wing players that guard. I mean, Patrick Beverley's probably the best defender he's ever had as a guard.
Mm-hmm. And man, is he good.
Yeah, he's really good. And he's coaching this team with Ryan Anderson, James Harden, Eric Gordon, and et cetera, to league average on defense. And that's all you need when you've got a top 5 offense.
Right. Well, here's the thing. A couple of things you have to take in consideration. One is I think I lost a friendship of a basketball guy over Nene, because a couple of years ago when I was watching Nene, I was like, he's as good as LaMarcus Aldridge. And I remember people wigged out on me on Twitter for that. But the point I wanted to make was he's got a really good mid-range game. He can pass better than Aldridge down low in the post, I think. He's rugged, he can bounce. The only issue he's ever really had was injuries, in my mind, right? And now he's a little bit older and whatever, but the guy had the talent and the guy had the skills. He just couldn't really get on the court enough. And I don't look at it that way. When I evaluate a player, I can't blame him for being injured and getting hurt. It's like not his fault, and that's just what happens. So that's the one thing, and that was a weird issue, a weird reaction, because I didn't think they would cause as much problems as it did a couple of years ago, and like people were just yelling at me and whatever. But to get back to your point about the defense, is that what people need to understand is that if you have a really efficient offense, and you're coming back down on defense in a set position a lot more than you would be with a shittier offense. And I don't think people often understand that, and that's a big thing. So the better their offense is, in theory, right, the better the defense at least has more of a chance at stopping the other team.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they say often a good defense leads to good offense, right? Like a lot of transition and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the opposite is true as well. I mean, it is much easier to defend if you're already back in set than if you're chasing guys in transition.
Absolutely. And so looking at their offense and what they are doing out there, I mean, having Gordon and Anderson out there has really been helpful, right, compared to last year. And the other thing is last year fell apart very quickly and they got rid of the coach and whatever. And you got to look at what was going on. I guess it has to be a personnel thing, right? Like what was going on, who was there, right, that really caused the problems. Was it really Ty Lawson? Did Ty Lawson do this?
No, I mean, Dwight Howard was the big problem last year. And we saw this in L.A. Dwight Howard got to play with Steve Nash and James Harden, two of the best pick-and-roll ball handlers in the history of the NBA. Mm-hmm. And he was an unwilling roll man. Last year he only rolled on 11%. Like he was only the roll man on 11% of the possessions that he was on the court.
Right.
That is ridiculous. Dwight Howard is a player that doesn't know why he's good at basketball. He's constantly asking for post-ups. He sucks at post-ups. He's one of the best pick-and-roll bigs in NBA history. And I've just thrown now NBA history out twice, but this is like how ridiculous the Houston situation was. If he had just run pick-and-roll after pick-and-roll after pick-and-roll with James Harden, he could have scored 23 points a game and made it look easy.
Right. Well,
and
yeah.
He wanted post-ups and he complained and he moped and he did all this stuff. And he's gone, and look at how Atlanta's going. Yeah,
exactly. And I tweeted this out the other day. What does this say about Dwight Howard? That where he's gone, he's laid waste to everywhere he's gone. Even in Orlando, eventually he did. And that was what was frustrating, because what you said about the roll man being devastating is because he used to be so fast that you could pick and roll for him and roll, and either they'd hit him from the pick and roll ball handler, or they one quick pass, boom. That's what Stan Van Gundy had. Now the other thing though is is once he screens the ball and then rolls hard to the rim, he can then get really good low post position for a quick post up. Now, if he was going to post up anyway in his career, that would be the way he should be posting up almost the entire time. But that's what he wouldn't do either. That's the other benefit that like the pick and roll would give him. So you're right. It's a really frustrating thing that he didn't have enough self-awareness, I suppose, to understand how good of a coach Stan Van Gundy was, because it was pretty clear that he got him out of there and then got himself out of there later. I mean, I just think he's a complicated man who and no one understands him but his woman.
Sure. Yeah, okay. I would argue that no one understands Dwight. Not even Dwight. And
not even Isaac Hayes?
I root for Dwight. I don't think Dwight is a bad person. And I loved, like, 2009 Dwight Howard was a fun guy to watch.
Yeah.
But after that season, when it all went downhill with Stan Van Gundy and the Diet Pepsi.
It did. The Diet Pepsi gate.
That's right.
Yeah, and Stan Van Gundy has been involved in so many of these seminal moments. But by the way, he was my coach. I was a basketball manager in Wisconsin when he was the assistant there.
Oh wow!
So I got to spend some time with him. He was great. But let's get back to the Rockets because offensively, so we're talking about pick and roll. You seem like you're seeing a little bit more of the D'Antoni special sauce in their offense than I am. I feel like I'm still seeing just a lot of sort of spread pick and roll, let Harden do his thing. Are you seeing more of the corner stuff, high post action before the pick and roll?
Well, so I am seeing a lot of action out of the corner. Like you might get a quick pin down, to the wing. It's more. It's not necessarily that they're running D'Antoni actions. It's just that the action is D'Antoni-like, if that makes any sense. Like there's no more walking the ball up. They're getting the ball up. Harden is getting, he's looking to pass ahead and get into the offense early, which is huge. I mean, that's one of D'Antoni's pet peeves is guys that take until they take the full 8 seconds to get it across, and then you've got 16 seconds to work with. And so they're getting the ball up the court. And they're getting into their actions early. There's no more James Harden just standing up top dribbling until 7 seconds left on the clock and then running a pick and roll.
Yeah.
They're running a pick and roll early, and then if nothing's there, they're leveraging the fact that James Harden is one of the best passers in basketball and can drive and kick with anyone. And so they're getting a lot of stuff. Yes, it's James Harden's pick and roll, but he is a master at it. So, of course, D'Antoni's going to use it. But so that's kind of what I've seen is that you're getting just early offense. You're getting into things quicker. And then the guys, like when Eric Gordon is out there without James Harden, that's when you're really seeing the D'Antoni stuff.
Yeah, that's what I see. Absolutely. And Eric Gordon is a revelation and deserves a breakdown. I've always liked his game. And because he hops a lot, by the way, at his shot, which I really like to see. The dude is shooting 41% from three on 9 threes a game. This might be the highest we've seen a guy with this many three attempts in a game, I think.
Wait, wasn't Steph higher than that last year?
But did Steph ever get to 9 threes a game?
I thought he was shooting like 11 last year. Oh man, we're gonna have to pull up the stat.
If only we had some sort of way of checking this with technology.
Well, I don't want another Kyle Korver situation.
Right. You don't want a Kyle or an Enes Kanter situation.
That's right. Steph last year was at 9.4
Oh,
threes
you're right.
a game.
No, he's 11.2 last year.
Oh, wait, that was 9.4 this year. Wow.
Yes. So you're right. I was off. Forgive me. So Steph, wow. No, Steph shot 45 on 11, and that's insane. Okay, so never mind. But it's up there. There's not many who've done it.
No.
And I love the fact that Gordon can kind of run the offense when he's out, or play the Harden version role and do it pretty well. The key I think with Gordon though is he attacks on the catch. Like you said, they don't really wait, but this notion of when you watch him play and as the ball comes, he's not going to jab step or rip through or triple threat. He's going to attack right away, and most of the time, or I guess 43% of the time on his field goals, he's going to score. That's a good rate for him.
Well, D'Antoni is he believes that the jab step and the rip through and all that stuff, they're wasted movements.
How do you know this?
Because we talked this summer at Summer League.
Oh, you talked with D'Antoni about this?
Yeah.
All right.
I asked him because, as a basketball coach, when you get an opportunity to ask D'Antoni something, you're gonna ask him a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
And so, he says you need to be able to do three things: catch and shoot, catch and drive, catch and pass. You don't need to do all this other stuff. And as a matter of fact, the whole point of a pass in the offense is to catch the defense off guard so that they start to fall behind. So if you catch the ball and you stop and jab step, all you're doing is especially at the NBA level with these elite athletes, you're just giving these guys a chance to catch up.
Yeah, you want to force a closeout.
Yeah, exactly.
And James Harden is I mean, he is so good at that snatch off. He snatches it off the dribble, and the pass is already gone before anyone can react. It's a skip pass, like 3-position skip pass. It's really a talent. Which again, the reason why he's better than Nash is because of his physical ability. Right? He's 6'7".
Well, yeah. So let's talk about that. Yeah, James Harden is the best pick and roll ball handler in NBA history.
Right.
He's better than Steve Nash.
It's not fair to Nash because Nash simply didn't have the physical ability. If Nash was 6'7", he'd be as good or not better than Harden. I mean, I think that's
Well, not only that, but Harden is built like a football player.
Yeah.
And when he puts you in jail, like you're in jail. This is like what people don't understand about his ability to draw fouls is because there are very few guys with his size and his ball handling ability and his body control. It's like him and LeBron. I mean, LeBron's obviously bigger, but and this is why and Harden is also he has this amazing ability. Hand checking is illegal. And so the second he feels a hand on him on a drive, he puts up a shot and draws a foul. But it is a foul. Like hand checking is a foul. He's following the rules. This isn't some flop thing. Yes, certainly Harden has had flopping moments, just like Chris Paul and LeBron and all of these guys. I mean, LeBron once got hit by his own teammate and flopped. So they're all flopping. Everyone's flopping. If you're not flopping, you're not trying.
Right. Well, here, I mean, it's a discipline thing. Like I covered the huge triple double he had, probably the greatest of all time, and his defender Holiday, he would just get his hand out, like trying to reach out toward his waist. You can't do it, and you can hear the slap. It's clear contact. He's great at it, and I know it's frustrating to everybody else, but Rockets fans. But it is simply it's just not disciplined defense. And like if you're a good enough player where you're going to get caught every time you're not disciplined, then that tells you something about how good that guy is, right? I mean, I think that's what we're saying. Really just an impressive guy. Now, the only problem I have is that, his three-point shooting, should be better. I mean, I'm looking it up right now. Let's see. It's 35%. It's about average, maybe a little bit below average at this point on high volume. To me, doesn't it feel like he would probably shoot close to 40 if he's taking about 9 a game. If he took 6 a game, he'd shoot 40%. Yeah,
probably. He has a tendency, and I actually wrote something about this for Real GM over the summer. He takes a lot of these high degree of difficulty threes, end of shot clock. So he's the end of shot clock guy when nothing's going. So if you go through and you look, he probably is shooting about 40% on what are considered normal threes.
Okay, good point.
But he doesn't care. He doesn't care about his percentages. Like he knows that they're going to be there, right? So he's launching end of quarter, end of half, end of game threes. He's trying to score, and so he takes a lot of really difficult contested shots, which he's very good at making, but he's not really good at the end of clock stuff. So that's part of it. Is that he's like the safety valve for that offense. So
that would be a video too, worthy of just sort of showing just the threes and why he probably is shooting better than it appears. Great point. Yeah. And it's just like the spacing that and by the way, even if he was 35%, you have to guard him 5 feet beyond the 3-point line. So it's not like they're going to sag off of him and it's going to matter at this point, right? That's the other key.
Yeah, well, just to kind of put into perspective the kind of ridiculous season he's having, you did a big breakdown about his 50-point, 15-rebound, 15-assist game. Mm-hmm. Well, last night he had 40, 10, and 10, and nobody batted an eye. Right? Like, I mean, he also had 10 turnovers, so it wasn't an amazing game like that other one. But, the guy is just, to me, there's no doubt he's the MVP, especially with how good his team is.
Yeah, and that's the key. I think he's the MVP overall, right? I mean, I think we both agree. We talked about this before. It might be a record thing, and he's clearly going to have a better record or the Rockets will have a better record than the Thunder. And whether you want to think it's fair or not, but either way, it does feel like he's gotten some separation from Russ at this point, right?
Yeah, the winning does matter at the end of the day. I mean, and I'm judging this by the way the voters have historically voted for MVP, and the winning's going to matter. So yeah, I'm pretty sure James Harden at this point, we're at about the halfway mark. I think they're 30-9 or 31-9 or something like that. Mm-hmm. So we're right around the halfway mark, and I
39.
mean, there you go.
Yeah. Well, let's in the context of watching the Raptors game, we should talk about the Raptors a little bit too, because I just had some feelings I want to get off my chest here. And I know that Raptors fans they're very protective of their team, and we've all heard everybody talk about that and they get their knickers in a bunch quite a bit on the Raptors. But it felt like to me that the Raptors had a nice lead throughout most of the game. Into the third quarter, right? I think the third quarter is when it changed. And so, but no matter what, and I was kind of like almost falling asleep on the couch for a lot of this, but I still, even in my half awake, lucid moments, could see that it was just a matter of time until the Rockets went on a run. And I think that's also part of the secret sauce here, or the recipe is, if they don't get on the run, they lose the game. Oh well, but they're going to get on a run 70% of the time, right? Or 70% of the games, and then they're going to win, right? But I don't know. What is it about the Raptors that they just don't have it? They haven't beaten a good team all year, right? Isn't their record 0-10 now against the top teams?
Yeah, it just seems like, even though I think the offensive rating is a little bit of a distortion of what this team is, because against good defenses, it just feels like, and this is feel, I don't know, I haven't looked at the numbers, so I'm not going to throw out any statistics, but it feels like they go back to the stuck in the mud offense, get it into, Valanciunas, DeRozan, with the mid-range pull-up, and just
Lowry
takes
with
forever.
drives.
Right, and it just takes forever for these things to develop. So they're constantly looking like end of shot clock against elite defenses. Now, they still put up 123 points or something against Houston last night, but part of that might have been the Houston effect. But they're not really a high-powered offense unless they're playing a poor defense.
Yeah, I'll tease those numbers out in maybe another video because that'd be very interesting as well. But what I wanted to say was, I think it's what you kind of said about how it takes a while for the plays to develop, and now they get the clock going against them. That is true, but also it's just the quality of shots that they have to take on a consistent basis are very hard. And I think we all, when you watch the Warriors play or you watch the Rockets play. Okay, they're great, right? The Warriors are great. They're good players. They have it, but they play loose, right? They play free. The Rockets, we saw Anderson say, they get in trouble if they don't shoot the three. They're so encouraged, and D'Antoni does a great job of developing that confidence. And it just looks like the shots they have to take in Toronto, they're just so tense. Everything is at the full speed and as much energy as they possibly can muster. Corey Joseph is a great example of that. I love him. I love the way he plays. But you can see that he's on the verge of being out of control almost the entire time. Because if he doesn't push himself that hard, then he'll just get destroyed on every possession. Right? He just doesn't have the physical ability to compete like that. But again, love him. He does great. He's gotten really much better than he ever had when he started. But a lot of the players are like that. I'm taller than Lowry.
What?
And, yeah, I was talking to him, at Adidas Nations 2 years ago. I was taller than him, or pretty close, and I'm 6 feet. So I don't think Lowry is 6 feet. He might be 6 feet in shoes. So it's impressive what he can do, right? But he doesn't jump out of the gym. He's not a great athlete. So you can imagine, you get among those trees. Those shots are really hard against anybody, and he can make them, enough. But you're right, against these good teams, against the length in a playoff series when they're ready for it, it's that there's a serious hole here.
Yeah, well, DeRozan, to me is the example of this that comes to mind first. He's very good at hitting these contested mid-range shots until the playoffs.
Very good. Oh, okay.
when the defenses lock in the playoffs, I mean, what happens? Like he struggles, and their teams are going to give up the mid range during the regular season, especially. They're not locked in on every single possession, and if you're trying to kill them with mid range and you're going to shoot 44%, they're going to take that. Especially, like since it's still going to be contested. It's not like a playoff contest, which just sounds so weird to say, but and he's very good at hitting these contested shots, but a contested shot is not a good shot.
Right. And the added pressure of the playoffs is always there. Now, he has another year of experience, which also really helps. If anyone's ever played in any kind of playoff setting, you just need to do it. There's no other way. No one can tell you how it's going to go. You need to experience it and probably fail a little bit to get that next level. So it is possible. By the way, I looked up the offensive rating of the team yesterday against the Rockets. It was 114 or maybe like 115, but their overall offensive rating for the season is 113. So even though they hung 120 whatever points on them, a lot of possessions. So it wasn't that much better than what their normal offensive rating is against Houston, which doesn't really make a point either way. But the bottom line is, I think, is that it's always been that way for me. And I feel bad because as a coach, you want to reward hard work and you want to reward guys that are playing above their heads, right? They are playing, and Casey should get a lot of credit for that. But that said, I think if they had a different offense that allowed them to create more spacing and maybe looked a little bit more like the Rockets movement, they would be better anyway. But then again, how much better are they going to be? They're second in the conference. They have the number 2 offense or number 1 offense, whatever it is. 2. It's like we're kind of splitting hairs here, aren't we?
Well, I'll tell you, my big concern is that this is a traditionally defensive team that isn't doing as well on defense, and that. Come playoff time, like that's why they took the Cavs to 6 games last year. They were able to lock them down. It wasn't because they were putting up 120 a game.
Right.
So that would be a concern for me. Is this more about the rotations, or is this, a philosophical shift thing, or is this something they're going to be able to dig back into and kind of pull up again come playoff time?
Well, I document this in a breakdown about the 3-point defense that they had, and they helped one pass away, and they allowed middle penetration. They play old school. They don't ice the pick and roll as much as I think they should, and so they get their bigs out of position hedging. So, and I don't want to, again, I don't know what's going on in their practices, but from what I have observed with like Dwayne Casey is he just seems like an old school coach who hasn't sort of looked at different or newer ways to defend certain things, or maybe just they don't see it, or they don't see the detail or whatever. But there are some fundamental issues defensively that I guess they got away with last year because I don't think that had changed radically to this year. What were they ranked last year? Do you know?
I don't know.
Well, if only we had some way of checking. I'm going to tell you in about 5 seconds as it loads up last year's rankings. But obviously, again, did they really compete that hard with the Cavs? Last year they were 11th overall in defensive rating. Again, okay. Not in the top 10, and again, which indicates not a title contender.
Yeah. I don't think Toronto is a title contender. I mean, regardless of the fact that they're this number 2 seed, Cleveland is so far and away better in every respect than Toronto, that you can't take Toronto seriously as a contender. This is why I argued against the DeRozan re-signing, because while I understand the idea, like you're not getting marquee free agents, so you need to keep yours. I just don't think DeRozan. I think Norman Powell would have been just fine as the 2 guard. I think Norman Powell as the 2 guard, or starting Terrence Ross, or whatever you want to do, still gets you the 2 seed in the East.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And what they gave up was, financial flexibility and all this stuff for a guy. And DeRozan can score. Don't get me wrong. Like, that's worth money. I just don't think that that's the big need of this team. I think that they'll find a way to get the buckets. Their biggest issue was not having a defender on the wing. So, I was against the DeRozan signing. Now, he's since proved me wrong, at least with his hot start. Like, so far, he's had a really good year, but his defense still isn't there. So, I don't know. That just like all these contracts, the jury's still out on that for me. I need to see what it's going to look like in a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, if there's deals to be made, Masai Ujiri is going to make them. He knows how to do that, and I have full confidence in the idea that like this was the best they could do in their circumstance, and and that's okay. I mean, this is going to go down as an era where this is the best basketball the Raptors have ever played in their history, and I'm sure everyone's excited about that. But again, there's just something lacking, and they've also sort of benefited from a weak East that it's hard to believe that no other team has sort of emerged in the last like 2-3 years. I guess the Bulls were going to be that until the Hoiberg experiment has gone terribly wrong for a lot of reasons that maybe not related to him. But yeah, it is a little strange that he didn't that no one else emerged. And by the way, DeMar DeRozan is still at 28 points a game, and he's at 47% field goal percentage. So he's been able to maintain. I think that's pretty much where he started out the season, right? I mean, he was probably a little closer to 30 the first 15 games, but that's pretty. He's sustained that, right?
Yeah, he's having a good season on the offensive end, but his defense is just still not there, man. All you have to do is watch a couple games, and you can see it. So, I don't value guys that don't bring it from he's also not a playmaker, right? He scores, but he's never making his teammates better,
right?
So I don't put as much value on the 28 points a game if that's all you can bring. I mean,
right.
Don't get me wrong, that is still worth something. For the Raptors, I don't think that that's what they needed.
Right. Now, that said, he is getting 4 assists a game. So he is he's doing something on that end as well. I mean, it's probably a usage thing as well. He just has the ball so damn much. But you can't ignore that. But you're right. And that's his primary role. Your role is we will swing it to you, and you will take 5 dribbles and shoot the ball with a guy in your face. And we will take our chances. And you're right. That's all well and good in the regular season, but not necessarily in the playoffs. When you need to hit easier shots as much as possible, which is hard to do, but you got to do that if you're going to have any hope of competing. Now, again, they're a lock for the Eastern Conference Finals, and they're probably a lock to win a couple games.
I don't know, man. Boston's about to catch them in the standings. So,
okay,
yeah.
That's true.
So if Boston's the 2 seed, I think that matters a lot.
That's interesting. Let's call. I'm going to look at that real quick because I'm curious to see the standings because if they were the 3rd seed, and you're right, that Boston's 1 game behind, and if they follow my breakdown I just released about playing Olynyk a little bit more alongside Horford, then I think that they're going to get up there. If they were the 3rd, they'd be slated to play the Charlotte. Oh, wow! Now the Charlotte Hornets of all teams could defend the Raptors pretty damn well. They match up pretty well.
I think the Charlotte Hornets match up really well with a lot of teams. They're my sleeper to come out of the East, or at least to give the Cavs a little run because, Kemba Walker is having an amazing season, and defensively is the stuff that they do. I mean, Steve Clifford is a wizard with what he has him doing defensively. Mm-hmm. So I really think I think they're a move away. Possibly for I would love to see them get Nerlens Noel. But Charlotte would scare me. Let's just put it this way: if I was the Raptors or the Celtics, I'd be scared of Charlotte. I would not want to face Charlotte.
I agree. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist is just tenacious, and I'm always his offense is whatever, but when you watch him out there on defense, it's kind of startling. When you watch, it's he is just in your face. He's like the Patrick Beverley of wing, bigger, small forward defenders. It's a kind of a pleasure to watch. I would love to see him. He probably would end up getting in foul trouble against LeBron just because it's LeBron, but I would love to see that matchup. That would be really fun. Yeah,
I don't know. It's going to be interesting. And now that I'm just looking at the standings, I just realized that the Bucks and Wizards are a half game back of the Bulls for the 7 seed. I expect the Bulls to be dropping out of the playoffs. I think the Bucks are going to be the 7 or 8 seed. I'm hoping they're the 8 seed because I want to see them play the Cavs. I think that they could. I mean, I doubt that they'll win the series, but I think they could win a game or two.
Didn't we talk about this before? Or no, I'm planning a breakdown on this why the Cavs don't want to play the Bucks.
Okay.
Absolutely. Oh, without question, with Giannis and Jabari Parker, if they can just, in the next 40 games, continue to refine the offensive attack better, Because I did a breakdown on Jabari where he's doing great, but man, they're not helping him at all. That offense does not help create openings for him. And if they could kind of figure that out a little bit better, because I do like their high post attack. And I joked the other day where if John Wooden had come down from heaven and he would have thought he's coaching the Bucks because they run basically his offense almost to the T. It's crazy. And I would love to see that. Also because I think it forces LeBron to guard Giannis, right? Is that how that matches up, or not all the time? But that's the key. I want to see LeBron have to guard somebody.
Yeah, I think that when they played in the regular season, he was guarding Jabari, but I think in the playoffs he'd have to guard Giannis. Yeah,
at least a little bit. And man, because I just feel like I think the Warriors got a lot of crap for when they got to the finals and they won, they didn't play anybody. Right? Everyone got injured before they play them. Well, to me, it's almost like no, LeBron doesn't have to play defense. And at least now, in the finals, he's going to have to play Durant, which is interesting. But I want to see him, because he can do it, and we've seen him do it, and he still has the ability to do it, but he doesn't have to, and it's frustrating. I want to see him have to work a little bit on that end.
I talked about that the other day with Jimmy Butler when they played the Cavs. Man, imagine if LeBron would guard Jimmy Butler. And 10 years ago he would have.
Right.
But I get it. You got to save those legs. He's got a lot of miles on him.
Right. Well, do we have any questions from the mailbag?
I was just about to say, maybe we should get to some questions before we talk about coasting. Yeah, we got, let's see. John Freeman asks, who would you rather build around, Nikola Jokic or Myles Turner?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. It would have helped if I had gone and looked at these a little bit ahead of time. But, wow. What are your thoughts?
Well, I lean toward Jokic because I love him as the fulcrum of the offense. I like how he passes. He can shoot the three. And he, as a facilitator from the elbow, I just feel like his offensive game is super dynamic. But it's tough because Myles Turner on defense, he's a A+ rim protector. Mm-hmm. The guy he blocks shots that he has no business blocking. He also can shoot the three. I don't think he's he's obviously not the passer that Jokic is.
I don't think anybody is, by the way. I think Jokic might have the title for best post passer now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, he looks like Arvydas Sabonis. Every time I watch him throw a pass, there was actually a pass he had last week, and it looked just like this Arvydas Sabonis over the head pass to Damon Stoudemire from the Portland days.
Yeah,
and it's just perfect. But yeah, I lean Jokic. But if someone wanted to say Turner, I can't make an argument either way.
Right. So, they both. It's a great way to do it. Maybe I like Turner. I don't know. I was really high on Turner last year, and he's continued. He's been very quiet. The Pacers are not commanding any kind of attention, unfortunately. But and he's on that path. I think maybe I thought he'd be a little bit better, or produce a little bit more this year than he did. But and Jokic is just a question of getting more time now. They finally figured out that they shouldn't play him with Nurkic. They're probably going to move Nurkic, who I think will help another team without question. Because Nurkic, by the way, is a pretty good passer down there, and he's tough and he can finish. So, but you're right. Nikola Jokic can do a lot more stuff, and it just looks better when he's out there. Without question, their offense just runs better when he's there. Defensively, I guess. What are we thinking? I guess he's solid, right? Is that what we can say about him?
He's okay. He's not a great rim protector, but he's got super active hands. He does a lot of things in the post that guys that post up are not used to seeing. He pokes a lot of balls away. Mm-hmm. He gets his hands on a lot of passes, and it's kind of a nuisance because of how quick his hands are. But Myles Turner is a good defender in the post and as a help side defender, and he's just good.
Yeah.
Myles Turner. I think Myles Turner is the best player on the Pacers.
Okay, even better than Paul George?
Yeah. I would rather have Myles Turner than Paul George.
Wow, I might have to quote you right now on Twitter and just throw that
No,
out there.
don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Oh God.
That will be the quote leading the link.
Yeah, I like Turner's game a lot, and I think that he had a 30-point game at some point this season, and he's not featured in what they do. I mean, obviously the ball is in Paul George's hands a lot, and I don't know what it would look like if you had a Myles Turner centered offense. I'm not sure how it would look, but I would be putting him in a lot of pick and pop situations and just see what you got. But the correct answer to this question is Joel Embiid.
Yes, that is the correct answer.
Right. So yeah, but I lean Jokic just because I tend to favor the European guys. Like that's my bias.
Okay, fair enough. All right, I'll go Myles Turner then.
There you go.
To be on the opposite side. What's the next question?
Fair balanced. The next question is from Tito P222, asking what is the ideal amount of threes a team should take. I'll go ahead and answer this one because I think we both agree with this. All of the open ones.
Okay. Yes, I said that before too. If you can create an offense that gets you 50 good threes, then take 50 threes.
You should take 50 threes, right. He asked another question. Would the elimination of 3 seconds in the paint, like if they moved it to 6 seconds, this is for the offense.
Oh, that's interesting.
Would it lower the amount of threes? I don't think so, because post up, you're generally, you've got a defender on you. It's not an easy shot. Like I don't think we're gonna go back to the post up until you get guys like Joel Embiid. And even Embiid is not while he has great post up moves, because of the way the defenses are set up now, it's too easy to help in the post. So I think that you're always now going to get that. You're going to post up, they're going to double, and you're going to pass out for a three. I just think that that's where we are.
Right, but another reason why teams are reluctant to double. And B, because when you double, that requires rotations. That requires people to be on the same page. It requires coaching. And as we've seen across the NBA, you don't always get that, and for a lot of reasons. You might not get, the practice time you need. You might not all have, when I've seen, oh my goodness, my guy with the Warriors, the defensive coach, Ron Adams. Sorry, when you watch Ron Adams run a practice defensively, it's like it's on point. It covers everything. Great drills, everything, and so. Not every team has that. And so they're going to be reluctant to want to double and rotate because they're concerned that they're not going to do it correctly and give up a wide open three. I kind of just studied my brain for a minute and went back and looking through the knowledge that I have about why they invented the 3-second rule to begin with. And one of the reasons was because back in the day, like the original Celtics, they'd run the pivot play really close to the basket because they had a guy, Dutch Dennert, who was bigger than everybody else and a good passer. Well, and then as you got further along, like if you had a big guy down there and he could stay down there as long as you can, that would be a huge advantage. Well, now every other team has a big guy to defend, right? Kind of like what you were mentioning. So suddenly that 3-second rule isn't as important as it was or when they installed it. But it is certainly a provocative, interesting idea to even play with it and maybe now one of the reasons why the 3 seconds is an issue now is you can't set a screen in the lane very easily because you're worried about the 3-second call. And if you had more time, then maybe you'd see more screens like floppy stuff set down there in the paint. That might be interesting. That might change some stuff.
Yeah, it might. You talked about coaching, and this leads me to Tito P222's next question, which is, is coachability something players are born with, or can it be taught?
Well,
I think it has a lot to do with how you're brought up. Not in a George Karl fashion.
Right. Don't tread on coals.
Okay. Did you have good coaches growing up that were like, I know the guys that I've ever had trouble coaching never had a good coach before. And so it's hard to put the blame on them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I remember, here's the thing. I rarely had that issue later on in my last stint as a head coach. I had more the issue when I was younger, and I think it was because of my approach.
Sure.
And that's also part of the issue. So it's a lot of things going on there. I believe that there is a method to reach any player. Whether you can find that method or not is up for debate, right? Calipari has been able to, for all his issues I might have with him, he seems to have figured out a way to communicate with pretty much every kind of player, and they certainly are able to sort of. For the reason why I hate how he does it, it's probably why he gets them to share the balls because, you got a guy who's better than you on the bench, right? And really puts the onus on you to listen to the coach. But in other circumstances when you don't have that and the guy is better and he knows it or whatever, and it's tough. It's like, well, how do you get through to the guy? There is a way. There are methods for any kind of player, Boogie included. We've seen it, in small doses of that, like where guys can get through. So
Mike Malone got through to Boogie. For me, it's being able to relate to your players. Like, you got to find some common ground, and it doesn't necessarily have to be basketball. Mm-hmm. But it is. Coachability is just as much on the coach as it is the player. Yes, the player needs to be open to coaching, but the coach needs to be open to be relatable to the player, right? Like, right. You can't just come in barking orders and then expect people to respect you.
Right. And I don't think you can come in and be like, I love you. You're my, and instantly embrace some sort of close relationship that doesn't exist because you need to build that. Right. And, so that's it. I think we said this before. There needs to be a book written about how to take over a new program, how to become, the steps are good practices. And it could just be an interview book where you talk to 100 different coaches and they just, give you insights who have done it because, it's a very touchy situation when you want to come in and be able to command that respect and be able to communicate with your players. But certainly there are players who come in a lot more easily coachable than others right away. And that could very well be how they were raised in their families. And that takes on every size and shape. And whatever. So that there's no through line there per se as far as, culturally or whatever. But then, it has to do with a lot of things and how the coach does it. So that's what we're seeing. I think a lot of these old school coaches have struggled in the NBA. Byron Scott, the guy in Minnesota who's not there, who's now on Sirius.
Sam Mitchell?
Sam Mitchell. I forget his name a lot because I think it's because he's got two first names.
Yeah, it may be. I think Dave Yeager made a huge mistake this offseason with the Kings. When he came in, he was talking about how because DeMarcus showed up to his opening press conference and he tried to make it seem like they already had this, hey, we've got this tight relationship. Mike Malone earned his relationship with Boogie, and I think guys like DeMarcus require you to put in some work on your end, right? And when you've got this sort of generational talent that he's got, you got to decide if it's worth it for you to put the extra effort in. And since the Kings haven't gotten rid of him and they've gotten rid of 5 coaches, I would say that the next coach, because how long will Yeager be there? The next coach needs to come in and know, hey, I need to build a relationship with this guy at all costs. Anyway, so we got some more questions. Let's see. Teak asks, any player you'd start a team with now other than Giannis?
Oh. Wait, I'm sorry. Any player I'd start a team with besides Giannis?
Any player you start a team aside
sure.
from Giannis?
That's easy. I mean, there's plenty of them.
Yeah? But would you choose anyone over Giannis?
I mean, over Giannis? I mean, like Embiid would probably be up there, right?
Yep. To me, it's Embiid or Kawhi.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
He doesn't always come up in that situation. Kawhi doesn't. But I mean, Embiid would probably be that guy. I guess Kawhi, I mean, we're talking about Kawhi was 21 or whatever?
Kawhi's like 24, 25.
Right. So starting with a 25-year-old, I mean, I guess whatever. What's the difference? They're going to get 10 years or 8 years.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, I guess Kawhi has got to be up there. He wouldn't be my, first or second choice. But
this is our hypothetical Seattle Supersonics for 2017, 2018.
Okay. Fair enough.
Right? I would start with LeBron. You know what? How about that? I would say I want to draft LeBron in the expansion draft.
Yeah, 30-year-old LeBron. Okay, yeah, right.
33-year-old. Hey, give me 34-year-old LeBron. I'll take him.
Yeah.
And yes, I know he's just turned 32, but I'm saying give him to me in 2 years. I'll take him.
Okay.
It's funny how we've got this bias toward man, if you're going to start a franchise, it has to be a guy that's under 22 or 23. Right. No, man, get Steph Curry is 28. Like Kevin Durant's 28.
Right.
Do you think Kevin Durant's getting a max contract this summer?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So somebody's going to try to start their franchise with Kevin Durant.
I mean, I'll answer that with like this. As far as people have told me, Paul Millsap is going to get a max contract.
He is, and that's the thing, man. It's like, so there are teams that just can't draw a real max player that are going to give max money to a guy like Paul Millsap. And Paul Millsap's a nice player, but he's not a $30 million a year player.
No. God bless him.
Yeah. But someone's going to. It'll be Sacramento or Denver or someone like that. Mm-hmm. Apparently the Pelicans are not interested in that. So let's see. Breakdown at NMP658 asks for a breakdown of why the Warriors offense stalls late and blows big leads. I got an easy answer for that. When they get a big lead, they stop running their offense, and it becomes a lot of one-on-one. Kevin Durant needs to be a more willing screener in the offense, especially in late game situations. And Steph Curry needs the ball in his hands more so that he can draw fouls.
There you go.
That about cover it?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the Steph Curry ball in the hands more is vital because when he's off the ball doing the cutting, they can rough him up and they're not going to call it. And so I have to kind of get over the notion of like those are fouls that should be called. You know, those are not. The precedent's been set, so the only way to protect him is to have him the ball. You can't rough him up when he has the ball. But that's a dicey dynamic because we saw, at the end of the game against who did they just lose to in overtime?
Memphis.
You saw that the heart and soul of their team, Draymond Green, wigged out on Kevin Durant. And probably rightfully so. They had a 2-point lead with about 20-some seconds to go. It wasn't going to be the last shot, but all they need to do is get a good shot, hit it or whatever, get a foul, and then the game's over. Steph Curry had the ball on top, was about to do whatever they were going to do, and then Durant kind of like walks over and says, "No, I got it." And Curry kind of shrugged and was like, "Well, okay." And then Draymond is in the corner, just losing his shit.
And he was right.
Yeah.
Like, look, people can argue to me about Draymond and like maybe he's a little bit of a dirty player, but you can't argue to me that he's not a smart player and he doesn't play winning basketball and then he doesn't know that guy is team first all the way. Like all he cares about is winning. And when I was watching that game as it happened, and Draymond is an animated guy. I've never seen him that animated in public against his teammate. And I wonder if this is a thing that has just been building, because this is not new. This is not a new thing for them this season. Like this has been an issue, and I wonder if it's like I guess Durant talked about it after the game where he said, hey, he wanted me to just run pick and roll or whatever. Well, I think that this is a common theme. Like their crunch time lineup has two guys that are willing to set screens, and you need five. Like Draymond and Steph. And Steph is a great screen setter, especially as a small guard. But you got to have more guys setting screens. And so I guess last night Draymond was setting a lot of screens for Steph, and they kind of were sticking Durant in the corner a little bit. And so that's something that needs to change. And this was one of my concerns coming into this season about the Durant signing there a lot has been said about Russell Westbrook and his propensity to go isolation. But maybe Durant was also the problem, because Durant also did the ISO stuff, and they would just take turns. One of them would stand 30 feet from the basket in the corner. So my concern was the fit and how much of the problem in OKC with the offense fell on Kevin Durant.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And we know that Durant wanted to get out of there because of that your turn, my turn, ISO stuff at the end. But you can't ignore the fact that it was ingrained and it was how they did things. Now, I don't want to defend Kevin Durant at all because you are absolutely right, and Draymond was right. But could Draymond have gone in for the rebound on that bad shot he took and maybe gotten in, knocked it back out? They could have gotten another possession. The game's over. Instead of giving up and just standing in the corner, yeah. But in Kevin Durant's defense, he did have Zebo on him. And I could easily see him looking at that going, here's a guy who is like at the end of his career, who's pretty slow, and I've got a lot of ability to go by whatever I can do, and this is the best point of attack. So I could see sort of why he felt that way, specifically because it was Z-Bo guarding him.
Yeah, you know what? Let me give some credit to my friend Amy from All Heart and Hoop City. She actually pointed out to me that Z-Bo has owned the Kevin Durant matchup for years. Because I was asking, well, why isn't Durant just putting the ball on the floor against Z-Bo and just trying to take him to the rack? But apparently Z-Bo has defended him quite well over his time in Oklahoma City. So that was a thing. I mean, I think maybe Z-Bo was in his head.
That's interesting. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Okay. Either way, it worked out poorly for them, and this is again they've barely lost any games. They haven't had too many of these, so I could see why Draymond was kind of happy it happened because they need to have more of these situations to get Durant involved and see what the right way to play is.
Right. It's easy to correct a mistake. It's hard to correct, like if he takes a tough shot and makes it, it's hard to fix that.
Right. By the way, it really you can impress upon him on a loss. Like really, you got to take this seriously. But here's an interesting question: had the Warriors had this problem before in the past without Kevin Durant?
Oh, sure.
Had they had this issue with like down close games, taking like bad threes? Like I don't know. Like maybe this is sort of a thing that's more endemic to the Warriors themselves as well.
Yeah, it is part of it. I just think that. I think in this particular instance, it was just highlighted because it was Durant. But you're right. I mean, a lot of bad turnovers late game for them. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I mean, you're not wrong about that. But I think that Steph has tried to be a little bit more under control, especially since the Christmas Day loss. Mm-hmm. And honestly, like we've all said, just give him the ball, put the ball in his hands, and let him make plays.
Yeah, he definitely spiked. By the way, at Christmas Day, they gave him a lot more, or right after Christmas Day, they were giving him a lot more pick and roll opportunities, and so that's changed. Like they're trying.
Well, he's been over 30 the last 3 games in a row. He's got a 40-point game in there. I mean, he's looking like Steph from last year, which probably correlates. I haven't broken it down, but probably correlates with having the ball in his hands more.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how about one more question?
All right, last question.
All right. At Nagus Trey asks, are the Wizards a small forward away from being the number 2 or 3 in the East? Now, my argument in the no, again, for this question is that Otto Porter has been really, really good this year.
Yeah.
And he's getting a max contract from somebody this summer, probably Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. He's really good. He's a good defender, and he's hitting threes at a nice rate, and he's actually making plays. So I would say the 3 is the least of their worries.
Yeah. I mean, what is their worry then?
They're not getting much production out of the 4 spot. Morris is not really doing a whole lot for them. And, the Jan Mahinmi signing was – it's another one of these years, not the dollars, signing him to a 4-year deal. He's 29. He's a center, and he hasn't played for him all year.
Yeah.
So that's kind of handcuffing them a little bit. They're basically down a man that they expected to be in the rotation. They probably expected him to be a starter because I feel like they wanted to move on from Gortat. Mm-hmm. So I think that's their biggest concern is that they're really down a guy in the rotation. Burke has been good as a backup. I like Satoransky, but he's experiencing some growing pains. But yeah, Otto Porter is the least of their worries.
Yeah, no, he's made a nice jump. I've again another one of those players who caught my eye coming out of college, and I thought I was wrong. I thought maybe I had missed whatever I'd seen, but it's finally coming, and he's developing more physically. I think that was part of the issue was he was just too skinny and just didn't have good balance and power. And as he's gotten to be 23, that's helpful as well as the comfort level. But he came out of Georgetown with the Princeton offense, and he seemed to understand how to play the game. And it was only a matter of time. So, yeah, that's definitely not the issue there. And by the way, it's a really pleasant surprise. They've kind of come out of nowhere to get into the playoff hunt. And who knows, they can get on a run if the schedule is favorable and move up even higher.
Well, they've already gone on a run, and they're the 8th seed now, which, it looked like they were going to be selling parts off a couple weeks ago. And I actually think that they're kind of figuring out who they are and what they are, and Bradley Beal's been really good. And so, I think that they could be the 6th seed.
Yeah, what is this
Easily.
run right now? They've won, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 5 out of 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they could easily be the 5th seed. I don't think the Pacers are locked in there at all. I mean, they're only like a game and a half back. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, yeah.
Oh, no, I was going to say, are we doing a live show this week?
We can do something. I don't know if we can do it live, but we can do something after the game.
Post game, okay.
Yeah, we can do a post game show. What's up on the schedule for this week?
We've got Grizzlies, Thunder, and Cavs, Blazers on Wednesday, and then Thursday we've got Bulls, Knicks, and Pistons, Warriors.
Ooh, that's
Pistons,
weird.
Warriors.
I mean, Pistons Warriors is a very strange, unlikely pairing of teams. What was the late game on Wednesday?
It was Cavs Blazers.
All right, we'll have to talk. We'll have to maybe we'll put out a poll on Twitter.
I was hoping we could. Well, I was hoping we could promote it here on the podcast.
That is true. That would be smart. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. Let's do a poll on Twitter.
All right, that'll force everyone to get over on Twitter and follow us because, again, it's a rollicking good time, especially during the games when we're doing a lot of analysis. So you have to be on Twitter. Even if you're not on it now, just join, sign up. Everyone's doing it. And follow us because follow Dave before you follow me.
No, follow both because we talk to each other a lot and you might miss out on that conversation.
Well, that's true. So follow us both. I'm at B-Ball Breakdown. Dave, where are you?
At Coach Dave DuFour. DU and the number 4 at the end. I should probably just change that to something more simple, but no, it's too late.
I don't know. It seems pretty simple, but you can just spell out the DuFour. But hey,
That's
whatever
right.
works. You're like Prince right when he would name his his songs.
That's right.
All right. Well, another great show. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll do it again next Monday. We'll do a live or some sort of post-game show this week as well. So stay tuned for that. And don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, not a channel, we're a conversation. You win. Are you in, Dave?
Yes, I am.